Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, April 12, 2018. We will open this hearing. The time is 1:30 p.m. My name is Steve Wilhelm. I'm the hearing officer who will be representing the North American Transportation Company. By letter dated April 2, 2018, the superintendent, pursuant to his authority, brought charges that are set forth in his letter to Mr. Clay Blanton, the accused. The letter provides for this hearing and will be considered as part of the factual proof of Mr. Blanton's potential guilt.
Objection. Mr. Hearing Officer, with all due respect, the charge letter that you're going to read into the record is not proof of anything. And so I would appreciate if the record would reflect that although that is an exhibit, it is not factual proof.
Your objection is noted for the record. However, I did state potential guilt, and we will get to that as this hearing proceeds. Before I read the notice of charges, I would like the participants to introduce themselves and explain what their capacity is or why they are at this hearing. Please speak clearly as the proceedings are being recorded, and we will begin to my right.
My name is Carl Lakin. I'm terminal superintendent. I'm the charging officer.
My name is Emily Pantoja. I'm Lieutenant of Special Services, and I am a witness in this proceeding.
My name is Kevin Lofton. I'm a cab supplyman and witness at the proceeding.
My name is Clay Blanton, and I don't know why I'm here.
My name is Matt Hollis. I'm local chairperson for TCU. I'm representing Mr. Blanton.
And Mr. Blanton, we will get to the exact reason why you're here in just a moment, but because these proceedings are being recorded, it is important that you get picked up and that you can hear my questions clearly and that you're able better to answer them. So if you wouldn't mind, would you please trade seats with your hearing officer so that you're up here closer to me and you can hear my questions more clearly?
Objection, Mr. Hearing Officer. The organization is not comfortable having the room rearranged to accommodate your recording device. If you need to move that, you can, but we would object to you requiring Mr. Blanton sit in a particular seat.
All right. Your objection is noted for the record and granted. I was simply trying to produce a better transcript for both the union and the accused, but if the union is comfortable with the setup the way it is, we will proceed with that. For the record, I will now read the notice of charges. The letter is dated April 2nd, 2018, directed to Mr. Clay Blanton, janitor, Natco Davis Yard, and we will be attached as Exhibit A to the transcript. From the North American Transportation Company, dated April 2nd, 2018, Mr. Clay Blanton, janitor, Natco Davis Yard. Dear Mr. Blanton, please arrange to attend a formal investigation in the office of the Superintendent, Davis Yard, Davis, Georgia, at 2:00 p.m., Thursday, April 12th, 2018. You are charged with unsatisfactory work performance in your capacity as janitor and failure to comply with written instructions. You may have present at the investigation such witnesses and/or representation by your own arrangement as provided for in the applicable rules of your currently effective working agreement. You will be held out of service pending this investigation and should return all company property in your possession to Mr. J.L. Jones, trainmaster.
Objection, Mr. Hearing Officer.
Your objections noted for the record, and we will proceed.
Mr. Hearing Officer, if you would allow me to state my objection for the record, I would appreciate that. The organization would object to the introduction of the exhibit or the charge letter into as an exhibit. The charge letter is vague in that it does not provide any specifics as related to rules that Mr. Blanton is alleged to have violated. It's vague in that it doesn't provide enough information for Mr. Blanton to be able to prepare a reasonable defense. It doesn't even include a date that these allegations were supposed to have occurred. And so for those reasons, we would object to this document in its entirety.
Mr. Hollis, your objection is noted for the record. However, I believe all of your questions will be answered during this investigation, which again is why this is an investigation. It gives the accused the right to get all of his questions answered. And along those lines, Mr. Blanton, so did you hear the notice of charges?
Yes.
Okay, so to clear up any confusion you may have had before, that is why you're here today. And we will proceed.
Mr. Hearing Officer, could I request a brief recess?
Yes, we will take how long do you think you need?
Just 1 minute.
We'll take a 1-minute recess. All right, the time is 1:40 PM, and we are back on the record.
Okay. Mr. Hearing Officer, one thing that we wanted to review while we were in our recess, I had the opportunity to review the charge letter that you've entered as Exhibit A, and the organization would object to this hearing being held in an untimely manner. In accordance with the controlling agreement, the claimant is to be afforded a hearing within 10 days of the charge letter. The charge letter was dated beyond 10 days ago, and so this hearing is not timely.
Mr. Hollis, your objection is noted for the record, and we will proceed.
Mr. Hearing Officer, again, we have an objection that's there regarding the time limits that are spelled out in the agreement. I would appreciate if you would explain your reasoning for overruling my objection.
Well, Mr. Hollis, the hearing is timely because when you count the days, you look at the date of the charge letter, and the next day is considered to be the first full day, which means that April 2nd is day one, and if you count forward 10 days, that means the hearing is being held exactly on the 10th day, which is in compliance with paragraph B of the discipline rule. And with that, we will proceed with the hearing.
Mr. Hearing Officer, for the record, there is nothing in the agreement that provides that you begin counting a day after the charge letter is issued, but I understand your ruling so long as our objection is noted for the record.
The objection is noted for the record. I would next like to read into the record a copy of the Terminal Superintendent's Bulletin, which outlines the duties of the Davis Yard janitor position. The bulletin will be attached as Exhibit B to the transcript, and the bulletin reads as follows. Terminal Superintendent's Bulletin to be posted in all bulletin books. Date of issue, January 3rd, 2018. From Superintendent Terminals, Davis Yard. To all concerned. The bulletin duties for the position of janitor at Davis Yard are as follows. Maintain and clean all offices, storerooms, and engineers and switchmen's wash and locker rooms at Passenger Station and Davis Yard. Maintain and keep clean the grounds at Passenger Station at Davis Yard. Maintain and keep engineers and switchmen's wash and locker rooms, Davis Yard. Handle baggage and mail at Passenger Station. Replace posters at Davis Yard and Passenger Station. Employees assigned to such positions shall ensure that the above duties are performed on a daily basis. See that there is no failure to comply with these instructions. And again, that will be entered as Exhibit B. At this time, I would like to make some general instructions to everyone in the room. I will reiterate this hearing is being conducted to ascertain Mr. Blanton's involvement in the charges under investigation, after which we will be able to determine whether he has any culpability. In my capacity as hearing officer, I'm responsible for maintaining an orderly proceeding in which all of the facts will be allowed to develop relative to the incidents under investigation, which I believe are important. As the hearing officer, I will be responsible for presenting the case in support of the charges. I will present evidence and question the witnesses first in that effort.
Objection. Mr. Hearing Officer, the role as the organization understands it for the hearing officer is to provide a fair and impartial investigation. Your comments just indicated that you were going to provide testimony and evidence on the behalf of the company.
Mr. Hollis, your objection is noted for the record, but I also stated that I am here to help develop all of the facts, and so one of the purposes that we are here is a fact-finding mission, and without questions and evidence, there is no way to determine what all of the facts of this case are. Therefore, while your objection is noted for the record, we are going to proceed at this time. The accused will be given the opportunity to question those witnesses or seek clarification with respect to any information introduced. After I have completed my presentation, the accused will then be given the opportunity to present his evidence and/or witnesses, after which I will question those witnesses or seek clarification with respect to any information introduced. Any comments or objections to the general manner in which the proceedings is being conducted will be directed to me. A transcript is being made, and Mr. Blanton will be provided a copy. To maintain an orderly proceeding, I will ask everyone to speak clearly and one at a time. We should all display prudent conduct so that all facts surrounding Mr. Blanton's involvement are fully developed. The rules of evidence do not apply in this hearing. All sides will be afforded leeway in presenting their respective cases. However, no one will be allowed to badger witnesses, and the scope of questions will be limited to those which I believe are relevant. At this time, we will proceed, and I have some questions of Mr. Blanton.
Objection, Mr. Hearing Officer. The organization would request that in the interest of being fair, that the witnesses be sequestered except for those that are providing testimony at the time.
Mr. Hollis, I would prefer to have everyone in the room, as I believe no one has anything to hide. But if the union is more comfortable sequestering the witnesses, the request is granted. At this time, we'll take a short recess. Mr. Blanton, if you would please stay. The other witnesses remain in the area so that you can be called as needed, and you are instructed not to discuss this case outside of this room, and make yourselves available for recall at all times.
Objection, Mr. Hearing Officer. This is a discipline case where, as you know, the carrier has the burden of proof, and it is appropriate for the carrier to ask questions of the charging officer and present their case first, and your instructions were that Mr. Blanton was going to be questioned first. We object to that order.
Very well, Mr. Hollis. Your objection is duly noted and granted. Mr. Blanton, I will issue you the same instructions to make yourself available for call. Do not discuss this case outside of this room, and I will instead call the superintendent to testify. The rest of you, please remain outside.